Chapter 62. Deal Hanli removed all kinds of weird oddities one by one from Mo Juren's body. Some were items that he recognized while others were foreign to him. He sorted these objects in two piles that he placed next to him. While sorting out all the objects, Hanli had a fair share of surprises, causing him to exclaim a few times. The amount of objects Mo Juren carried on his self was not small, and some were even dangerous and life-threatening objects. A tube of some mysterious poison, a bag of sand dipped in lethal snake venom, 10 or so incredibly sharp boomerangs. As the number of items on the floor increased, the more panicked and unsettled Hanli became. He realized how lucky he had been when battling against Mo Juren. If the other had not wanted to capture him alive, Hanli would have most likely died. After wiping away the cold sweat from his face, Hanli laughed mockingly to himself. Me, a living man, is afraid of a dead man's possessions. After removing all the items from Mo Juren's body, he started to carefully sift through all the suspicious-looking items. This small bottle is so foul-smelling, but it must be some kind of antidote, so it should be okay. This weird-looking weapon looks oddly similar to a wheel, and even though I don't know what it's used for, it shouldn't be related to the Iron Slave, so I'll first put it to the side. As for this spice bag, Hanli continued to fiddle and inspect each item while talking aloud to himself, making it seem as if he was in high spirits when suddenly he found himself holding a small bag. Within his hands was a normal-looking spice bag that, under normal circumstances, would not catch the eyes of others. However, Hanli knew that since it was on Mo Juren's body, it would not be anything but simple. Hanli weighed the small spice bag in his hands in hopes of gaining insight on its contents, but he only noticed that the bag was exceedingly light and could not possibly contain anything heavy. After weighing it for a second time, he felt that there might be a paper-like object or something similar hidden within the small bag. Hanli prepared himself mentally before opening the bag, and just as he expected, he saw several sheets of paper tucked inside. He glanced at the paper and noticed that it was written in Mo Juren's handwriting, which caused a heavy feeling to weigh down his heart. After briefly skimming the paper, he did a double take as he reread the note and realized that it was Mo Juren's personal will. Hanli felt bewildered, and due to his curiosity, he carefully read the contents on the few pieces of paper. After he finished reading, Hanli lifted his head upward and stared for a long time before releasing a heavy sigh. Furrowing his brows, he felt an extremely heavy weight descend over his heart. With his hands clasped together on the back of his head, he looked like an old man as he paced aimlessly. He would first walk 2 steps, then stop and ponder upon something. After realizing he couldn't fully grasp his thought, he would continue to pace a few steps before stopping once again to think. Just like this, Hanli continued to pace around, mimicking a donkey circling around Mo Juren's body. His face became unsettled. One moment it was bright red, and the next it would turn white, showing the raging emotions he felt within himself, unable to be pacified. If Li Feiyu saw Hanli's unstable mindset, he would probably mock him with loud ridicule. The reason for Hanli's change was Mo Juren's will, which left behind some extremely terrible news that left him with one of 2 difficult choices. Within the antidote for insect corpse pill that Mo Juren had previously given him was a rare type of poison that could only be removed by his family's precious warm yang jade. Apart from this treasure, even legendary antidotes could not save him. Written on the few sheets of paper, Mo Juren's will clearly stated that the poison he used on Hanli was for the worst-case scenario that Mo Juren would die from failing to possess Hanli. So, in preparation of any unsettled business he might have after his death, he decided to include one final, simple exchange with Hanli in his will, allowing Hanli and the deceased doctor to benefit greatly. Mo Juren would be able to take care of any unsettled business, while Hanli would be able to gain a large amount of wealth and an indescribable amount of benefits. As for whether Yu Jitong would be the last one alive, Mo Juren did not give it a second thought. He only briefly mentioned him in his will, saying that Yu Jitong was weak by nature and afraid of death, and although he was a bit smart, that was the extent of his current capabilities. Mo Juren also mentioned that even though Yu Jitong was an immortal cultivator, he would never become anything great, and for this reason, he was quickly disregarded as being the last person alive. Once Han Li saw this, he laughed bitterly in his heart at how Mo Jurin did not predict that in the end, he would fall into the trap of the innocent-looking Yu Jitong. If Han Li had not hit his real eternal spring arts cultivation level, he would most likely have ended up like Mo Jurin, allowing Yu Jitong to receive all the benefits. Of course, Mo Jurin had also planned to achieve his fantasies of becoming an immortal cultivator by taking over Han Li's body. It seemed like no matter what kind of cultivator one became, one must not underestimate others. In his will, the trade Mo Jurin proposed was very simple. He wrote that in a year or two, the poison would become effective. To remove this poison, Han Li must make a trip to Mo Jurin's home. Mo Jurin had wives and daughters, along with a decently sized business. He had made arrangements for them before he left, but he feared that if he were absent for an extended period of time, his enemies would have evil intent against his family. For this reason, Han Li must rush to protect his wives and family members before the situation escalated, and preferably help them escape from the bloody world that is Jianghu, so that they can live a normal life without want. As a way of compensating and removing any of Han Li's suspicions, Mo Jurin's will betrothed one of his daughters to him, and gave him a dowry of 1/2 of all his assets, along with the young jaded treasure. Before Mo Jurin left, he had given the precious jade to his wives for safekeeping, and also explicitly told them that it was to be used as part of their daughter's dowry. So even if Han Li did not want to wed his daughter, he would be forced to. Of course, Mo Jurin clearly pointed out that his enemies' clans were very large and influential. They also contained many cultivators. The sheer number of members made it hard for the clans to supervise and control all of their members. And with Han Li's current abilities, he wouldn't be capable of dealing with them head-on. For this reason, he specifically prepared 2 false identities for Han Li and carefully hid them in a secret location unknown to anyone besides Mo Jurin. Furthermore, he even left behind a token belonging to Mo Jurin and a handwritten letter. At the same time, he also left a list of names that clearly stated his trusted aides, those he suspected of plotting against him, and the names of his enemy clans within his letter. He also wrote out several things Han Li must take note of. Finally, to express the sincerity of his will, he even left behind how to control and summon the Iron Slave and the Cloud-Winged Bird. What caught Han Li's attention was how Mo Jurin vaguely pointed out the fact that the Iron Slave was actually a soulless corpse, whose soul has already entered the cycle of reincarnation. As if to make him not feel unwell, these words caused Han Li to be at a loss. Did he really seem to be of the overly emotional sort? However, even without mentioning the poison within his body, when Han Li was faced with such great riches, he had felt rather tempted. Han Li had always been sensitive to money and was therefore very interested in Mo Jurin's proposal. As for the betrothal to Mo Jurin's daughter, Han Li felt an odd feeling well up within himself. He was around the age when he would experience his first set of romantic thoughts. Furthermore, he knew from Mo Jurin's original appearance that his daughter could not be anything but beautiful. But the risk he faced was no small matter. If he was not careful, he might end up having to pay with his life. Mo Jurin's enemies are not simple characters. Mo Jurin had carefully constructed a watertight plan to take care of any unsettled business, using the chance to start a new life filled with beautiful women and immense wealth as a collective incentive in order to tie Han Li to Mo Jurin's family, effectively mixing safety and danger together by forcing Han Li to swallow this honey-wrapped poison pill. TL, honey-wrapped poison pill means a situation that looks appealing but contains many hidden dangers.